made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes and to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Transact Card, Align Life, Neuro Infinity, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 507 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Selina Sigafoose-Jackson. If you want to hear about how to get more chiropractic programs into schools and legacy, stay tuned.
My dogs will roam around, but it's better than having them bark outside the door. So.
All right. So great introduction there. The dogs will bark, everyone. Maybe that's a good intro for the show. But welcome back, everybody. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Just really excited for today's show. We have Selina Sigafoose-Jackson. Episode 507. We've broke the 500 mark. Anybody in podcast world knows that that's kind of a big thing. So I'm really excited for the next 493 of these. and you know, we've been doing this for 5.5 years, so pretty cool. But before we jump in, I just want everyone to know our why. Why do we do what we do over here? And our pre-conversation before this all kicked off today on this interview, we were talking about like medical freedom, family freedom. I like freedom of speech too. And that's one of the reasons why we do this show is for the First Amendment. We do this show because we do want to protect freedom of speech in chiropractic, medical freedom, and family freedom. I say this time and time again. If people don't listen to anything but the first minute of our show, I want them to know the integrity that we do and that we stand for. We also protect BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. I know it's really big in chiropractic. If you guys don't know what that means, go to your favorite search engine and look for BJ Palmer's last words, the Sacred Trust. You're going to learn so much more about chiropractic than you did previously. And that's a big part of the show, is to educate people. We also support subluxation-based chiropractic, innate intelligence, and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical, get adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that being said, Dr. Selina, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a very long-winded introduction, but I think that those things are the tenets of the big why, and it's necessary for us to have some lines in the concrete that we lay down and say we don't go past that. That's important to us, and those are reasons to carry forward. And I think that that's a big spirit of chiropractic. And I'm just really curious. I've never really heard your story about how you got into chiropractic. I know that you come from a chiropractic family, but I've never heard like your perspective on what it was like coming from a chiropractic family and where you are today. So I'm sure all of our audience is going to be excited to hear this one.
Well, mine's a unique one in that, yes, my father, chiropractor, I'm one of 6 kids. So I'm actually the 4th graduated chiropractor of my siblings. I'm the 5th child, but I'm the 4th to graduate. 2 others graduated after me. But truth is, I knew from the very beginning of life that I wasn't much into dating, in that I didn't think that you should just go fishing unless you wanted to eat the fish. And so I went to chiropractic school to find a husband. I needed to know that the person that I was going to spend the rest of my life with, I didn't have to say, no, we're going to have our kids born at home. No, our kids aren't going to get vaccinated. No, my kids are going to sleep with us. No, our kids are going to, I needed somebody that got that, and that if we were going to have troubles, the troubles weren't going to start down. They might have started up a little higher with maybe other things, but not with kids, and not with the basic core fundamental values that I really honored and respected in my growing up years. That was okay with me being a vegetarian and raising my children as vegetarians, little things like that. So that is really the the long and short of why I went to chiropractic school. And then I met Kevin, my husband, the first day of chiropractic school or undergrad that was for chiropractic. And then, hey, why not finish school? I was already there. I already had my prerequisites. Let's just go for it. So that's where that came from.
So York, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
How long has the practice been there?
We opened in October of 91. So this October will be 32 years. That's not where we started. We graduated and went to Florida. We both had separate offices and forgive me, but didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw out of. Lived with my parents, couldn't afford to feed ourselves. And my dad had a program called The Gathering where you kind of find yourself. And unfortunately, within months after he opened my office, spent $150,000 during his gathering. Kevin and I both had a vision that we needed to leave Florida and go to Pennsylvania. I mean, literally both had the same vision. And so we packed our bags and moved to Pennsylvania, opened in York in October of 91 and took off. I mean, talk about any saying, this ain't working, King, it's not working, and literally blew the doors off the building.
Such an exciting story. You know, I see that there's so much power. And what was it like being around that environment? Like, I know your dad put seminars on and these gatherings. What was it like to grow up in that world?
Well, when you don't know anything else, it was just another day. But truth is, I think at some point I was in chiropractic school. My dad was speaking at a DE, and I don't remember what the message was, but when he spoke, something moved me, something so deep. And I don't sugarcoat anything. My dad could be a real asshole. My dad was not the nicest man to my mom, nor to some of my siblings. Me and him had a fantastic relationship. My dad was the most amazing chiropractor. And that day is when I realized I need to separate Sigafoose the man from Sigafoose the chiropractor. Dad and the chiropractor have to be two different people. And I really felt blessed to be in that family. It wasn't an easy growing up. And this isn't poor me. It wasn't easy, but it made me, I can only speak for me, made me, and I'm not a great person. I'm just saying I feel comfortable in my skin. And I think it's because of the growing up and the hard times that we had mentally, physically, spiritually. And it's what made me want to find a man that was stable and like my dad, but a little different. And I really, the chiropractic philosophy was to the core in our family. Every decision was made through the philosophy of chiropractic. I will say that. As my parents aged and they started doing different things, I confronted them and I said, wait a minute, especially my mom, was this a lie? Did you raise us on a lie? You're making some different choices that don't coincide with how you raised us. And that's something we can leave on the table and maybe talk about another time. But we lived, eat, and slept and breathed, not chiropractic, because I don't think the philosophy of chiropractic belongs to chiropractic solely. We lived, eat, and breathed the principles and philosophies of life, which happens to be what chiropractic hooks on. These are life principles.
Well, you know, there's been 500 plus interviews that we've done. And I always ask people, like, who are some of your heroes? And like, there's a good number of those interviews that we've done that people would say your dad and people that they wish that they could meet. I mean, people have said this stuff, and some people have met your dad and he mentored many of the people that I interviewed. And some of the people's most fond memories of seeing your dad speak, you know, I've listened to, what's the ones he did, the Red Deer.
10 hours at Red Deer. Yeah.
Yeah. I've listened to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we made our first movie, Chiropractic, the documentary, I actually reached out to your mom at the time and asked her if I could use clips of your dad in our movie.
Yeah.
And she wrote off on it and said yes. And
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea. I was watching Billy DeMoss my first time ever. First time I ever like heard of your dad. I was watching this Billy DeMoss like video like 15 years ago. And that guy was just so on fire for chiropractic. And he mentioned your dad. And I went and Googled and I found, the stuff. And I think that that's the cool thing too about this show is we're documenting this profession and I call it weaving the tapestry of chiropractic together.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. And it's an interesting story because, nobody's exempt from the hard life.
No, no. Sooner or later, it's going to hit you. If you have of any character, you nobody begs to go down into the trenches, but it builds character.
So today you're with a leadership position, the ICA. What's that been like?
It's been an absolute extreme honor, and I'm humbled by the position from the moment that I got elected in 10 years ago as secretary treasurer. I knew I was filling some really big shoes. Didn't think I was able, but I also knew that there was a universal intelligence in all things really giving to it. So I was there for a reason, and I would have never imagined 10 years later I would be sitting in the president position and being the first female president. And I don't take it lightly. I do believe that if for no other reason that I took this position, it was to calm the waters, to still waters. We know that our camps are divided. We have a very divided profession, but when our side of the profession is divided, that's real bad. And so my mission is to just bring calm. We have enough shit going on outside of our ranks. Let's bring calm. Let's bring some type of agreement. Where do we draw that line in the sand, right? Or in the concrete? Where can we agree where that line is at? All of us feel comfortable to go to that point, yet not beyond it. So.
Well, I think there's a lot of people out there that they just want to see chiropractic continue to win. They want to see chiropractic continue to see more and more people. I've been around a lot of different events and heard a lot of speakers and done a lot of research and study on the profession. And I always hear that there's never been a greater time to be a chiropractor over and over and over. It's a theme. Does that resonate in your heart today? Is there still never better time to be a chiropractor?
I think that, if you ask BJ, he would have said it's never been a greater time. They were on uncharted territory. I will say that our time in chiropractic right now is far more effortless. And is that because the world is waking up, that COVID did us a favor and COVID brought about the ability for the veil to be lifted from people's eyes and they're questioning, and we just happen to be there to maybe not have the answers, but to give them hope and to say, here, let me catch you when you have.
Looks like there's a little the computer's thinking over on her end, so I'll just go ahead and jump in. And so there, she's coming back. All right, she's back.
Here we are. So I think the time that we're in right now, if you don't do good in chiropractic right now, it's on you. It's not chiropractic and it's not the message. It's not the story. It's you. You are not stepping up to the plate. You are not saying, I have arrived for service and I'm here to do what I am called to do. It's on you. Honestly and truly, the effortlessness of practice is insane compared to what it once was. Do we need to keep telling the chiropractic story and telling the chiropractic story? 100%. But when people flood into your office, and I'm blown away every single day that we open at 8:30 in the morning, and at 8 o'clock, there's not a parking spot, there's not a chair in the house, and people are waiting, and they'll wait an hour to be adjusted 2-3 times a week. What is that? That's not Sigafoose-Jackson. It can't be. We're simply humans. So is this never been a time? Yeah, that's a slang word. What it is that Kevin and I have stood up and said, we are here, give us our marching orders, and we show up every day. After 33 years of practice, we show up every day when we don't want to, and we make it accessible and easy for people to have chiropractic. And if you can't have a busy, overflowing office, come see us, number one. And number two, look at yourself. Look in the mirror. It is not chiropractic. I'm telling you, it's not. It's you.
It's always you. It's always you. And here, I'll tell you why it feels that way to a lot of practitioners. And this might be like a cat out of the bag, but a lot of them are in stupid, stinking debt. And it's really hard to have a good attitude when you think about some of the what they're carrying with them into practice each day, and not making excuses. It's just a sobering reality that people that are out there in the trenches sometimes have a lot overhead. And I think that people should come and see how you guys practice, because that will give people clarity that they can go out and see as many people as they possibly can handle on a day-to-day basis. Because the truth is, more people just need access to chiropractic. I met this guy recently down in Houston, and he's open 16 hours a day.
Wow.
7 days a week.
Wow.
Right?
That's huge. Wow.
Yeah, pretty courageous.
It is. It is.
And guess who's thriving and growing and staying busier than anybody else?
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah. And then there's that faction of the profession that would just say, well, that's wrong. You're going to burn yourself out. But, it's a choice. That's his choice. And we have no right to judge what he chooses to do. No right.
Yeah. The guy's
no right.
I think it's impressive that somebody would want to run a clinic around the clock like that. And see how that can have an impact on a community when people have access to chiropractic.
Yeah.
Like, how many cases come in and be like, oh, it was last night at 9:00 when everybody was closed and I didn't have anybody to go to, so I had to spend the rest of my night just like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. My husband, Kevin, will talk about a lot. Are you in practice support your lifestyle? Is that what practice is about? Is to support your lifestyle? Or is this a chiropractic lifestyle? And again, who am I to judge? If somebody chooses to work 6 hours a day, 4 hours a day, super duper, good for you. Charge $120 a visit, good for you. That's your choice, and you'll attract the right people to you. We choose not to do that.
Well, that's the other part of the conversation, Dr. Selina, is we have people that only want to work 24 hours a week. I think there was a stat that said something like 50% of every chiropractor is part-time.
Well, here's the dilemma. And I'll jump to one of the things that was discussed. Here's the dilemma. We have a massive dilemma right now. 50% of the women, of the people in chiropractic school are women. And I know what a woman is. A woman is a mother, a wife, a worker, maybe a homeschooler, and there's a capacity blocker there. And so if 50% of the people graduating are women, yet I see in my office every day people flooding in and the need and desire for chiropractic. And we have a 50% of our people graduating have a bit of a capacity block, right? So maybe they want to work all the time, but they have some blocking, just having a baby and all that women take on. And then let's say the other 50% only want to work 24 hours a week.
We have a capacity.
How are we going to see the masses?
Yeah, we have a capacity issue.
And then we have less and less chiropractors graduating in comparison to the ones dying off and retiring. How are we going to do it?
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Transact Card, Align Life, Neuro Infinity, Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. Let's hustle. The really cool thing about this interview is we're all going to be together here shortly in Las Vegas at the ICA annual convention. And I think that's going to be a great opportunity for Chiro Hustle to be co-branded with the ICA and support them. One of the things that a lot of the people that we interview talk about is, support your state association first. Make sure you're part of giving back to institutions like the ICA and groups like the ICA. So there's a lot that goes into having these conversations, but also I think it's really great to have Selina on here as the guest. It's the pre-interview chat was just amazing. Lots of good energy, lots of good narrative. We were just Lena, I agree. Selina does rock. Hopefully she can rejoin us here shortly. I'll just try to keep it going until she shows up. But yeah, I was just reminiscing with Dr. Selina. I was like, yeah, I think the last time we saw each other was at the hotel down in Marietta. We were both attending Life Vision, and it was really great. Got a chance to see her and Kevin checking into the hotel. Cool stories, and Kevin introduced me to one of the hotel staff and said, "Hey, this is my brother." And he said, "Brother from another mother."
Share with my cell phone.
All right. We got you.
You can hear me?
Yep, we got you.
All right. So sorry.
No, it's okay.
Gotta be. Yeah.
It's a good weather. It's a good weather in Pennsylvania today, I'm sure.
It's called Comcast.
I was just talking about the last time I ran into you and Kevin, and Kevin introduced me to one of the people at the hotel, and he said, "Hey, this is my brother." And they're like, "Huh?" No, he's like, brother from another mother.
That's Kevin.
It was quite funny.
He's something.
So let's get it back going again. And I know that you've been in the profession your whole life, and you're talking about the access and women becoming chiropractors, and 50% of all chiropractors that are in school right now are women, and how I was brought up how 50% of chiropractors are part-time.
Yeah.
And
right.
there's a threshold for that. And
right.
I think that in order to get us to the next level and get us, growing instead of diminishing, what do you see as the answer to that?
So here's what I think. Number one, we need to get more chiropractic programs in the country. Okay. We need to get more, we just need more chiropractic programs, period. In colleges, like Life West just has a branch campus that they're opening in Omaha, Nebraska. We need more and more and more. We need to get it around the country, get more people involved. Physical therapy, I think they have 280 programs. We need more. Now, I think we also need the schools to go into underserved areas. We need to have mission trips in our country. And so students need to be able to be protected and supported in underserved areas. And if that means that the school needs to get with the police, and if people just don't want to go into inner cities, because that's where people need to be pulled out. This is who we need to serve. We need more of a cross section of society to see chiropractic and be chiropractic. Then I also think what we need to do is we need to support chiropractors staying in practice. And maybe, like hospitals, they buy up family like all the hospitals in the areas are buying up family practices, right? And then those medical doctors are now working for the hospital. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting maybe schools go out across the country and support chiropractors in their office, or get groups, like whether it be the Joint or whether it be some of these other bigger groups that I don't want to say that it would be a franchise. Maybe it is, but buy up offices and encourage chiropractors to stay in practice, maybe not 16 hours a day.
Well, what do you think about this? Like a legacy strategy where a new grad would come out and do a residency with a chiropractor that's been in the game for years and learn
Yeah.
from them, and then take over as a legacy
Yes.
transfer of that office.
Yes.
Like that's intelligent business to me, is you find somebody that needs to know how to become a better adjuster, needs to know how to run a business, and you match make them. You
Right.
put them in with the next
Right.
the next man up opportunity.
Right.
And our next woman up opportunity. I think
And
that's
that needs to be fostered from pre-entry, pre-matriculation, and let them know that these are the options. And I also think what we need to do is have somebody needs to get to the Department of Education or whomever it is and end this absurd interest on student loans. We need to end the interest on student loans, give that a grace period, make it longer, let these kids get out and start making a buck before we start raping them. Because that's what it is. We're flat out frickin' raping our kids. And so I think that those are ways to encourage people not just to get into school, but stay in school and feel confident graduating.
Or we can make chiropractic school more affordable.
Yeah.
Or we could send them down to Mexico to get degrees for the Mexican peso and bring them back up here to practice.
Yeah. Again, it falls on the Department of Education and the CCE, but who does that? How do we do that? And the bureaucracy of it it's staggering. It's stymieing. And so these are my ideas.
Well, those are the choke points, really, for why chiropractic isn't flowing more abundantly. And I think that it's a real great conversation that we've had today about, some of the things that are going on and how our views are for it. But I'm really interested in you too, like you, the practitioner, and, you as the person that we're interviewing, like on a personal level. Like if you could sit and talk with anybody over the history of chiropractic, or maybe even, the past 5 years, if you could sit and talk to anybody for an hour in chiropractic, who would it be?
Gosh, that's a I would have to say, and I've been blessed to have been able to do it, but I think now this side of life versus when I sat down and I've had phenomenal conversations with Dr. Sid and Dr. Nell and Dr. Irene Gold and Dr. Reggie Gold. I've been blessed to sit at their feet for long period of times, but I was young and I didn't have what I have now. But I think that those would be for sure people. I have had plenty of time to talk to Irene Gold out of all four of them. My dad, have more conversations with my dad as the chiropractor as opposed to his daughter. And then, I would love to. I have a niece and a nephew who are a niece graduated last year and my nephew just graduated this year from the school in Barcelona. And, while they aren't gone, I would love to just sit with them and see, because they're in Belgium, they're in Europe. I don't get the time to spend with them. And when they're here, it's just so much family and so many other things we talk about. But I think those would be a few.
Yeah, it's such a heartfelt answer. I think that we all want to spend time with somebody that resonates and gives us that feeling of depth. And I've never got a chance to meet Reggie. I've actually had Irene on the show, So that was a really important one. That was actually episode 400. I remember because I was like, I want to get somebody that's a real shaker on 400, and Irene agreed, and I positioned her specifically to be our 400 show. Yeah, and I never got a chance to meet Nell or Sid either, but I have gone to my first DE. I know that probably might not be like so impressive to a lot of people, but going to one was like a huge eye opener for me because they were down there talking about philosophy. They were down there talking about passion for chiropractic and taking care of people. And I think that there's some philosophy of give, love, and serve that still is rich in that community. And I think that if every chiropractor had a chance just to go like see that for one weekend of their whole life, it might change the trajectory of how chiropractic is practiced and how people like really like understood like the ethos behind the profession. And I think that that's important. That gathering is important. And it was only my first one going.
You know what DE gave a large number of people, my father, myself, many people, because I grew up in DE. I was 2 years old at my first DE. And what DE gave people was the ability to explode in chiropractic without having to pay for it. They didn't. It was long before coaches. Everybody was your coach. Everybody was your mentor. Everybody would give to you. Everybody would talk to you. Didn't matter if it was in the middle of the night and you were struggling. You could call any one of those DE guys, and they're there for you for nothing in return. They were the absolute epitome of give, love, serve, and do for the sake of doing it and asking zero in return. And so, that is what DE gave the profession, I think. And I would love to see more of us getting back to that. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have coaches, but what I'm saying is that a lot of people pay for things that can be gotten for free if you find the right person.
Yeah. I always tell people to look in the obvious places.
Yeah.
And mentorship is one of those things that I think we could all benefit from a lot of, and, passing a practice to the next one, like method, I think is something that chiropractic should seriously look into. I know we're up on the edge of our time together today, but I am curious to know, I always like my shirt says, expect miracles. What's a miracle story that you've seen over your career that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, I'm going to give you two on opposite spectrums.
I love these, by the way. This is like one of my favorite parts of the show. And I like this segment for the last is because it keeps people listening to the end of the show.
So recently, little Avery, and I've talked about Avery on my ICA videos. And little Avery, and I'll try not to cry on this one, and it's a strange miracle. Little Avery came to us with absolutely unbelievable, excruciating right leg pain at 5 years old. She had been for 5 months suffering on Motrin or ibuprofen all day long. And no answers. No answers except that the parents were told that she's probably faking it. So she came into our office and she gotten some relief, but truth be told, she just wasn't responding to care. And I referred her to a pediatric neurologist because something's going on. And I think my point in this miracle is that sometimes, in this case, Avery didn't have this miracle where she's running through the office and she's in no pain anymore and off all drugs. What her family got was hope that somebody was there and wouldn't give up on them and just send them home to do more of the same, to have that insanity. And that in our office, and I know every office across the country would do the same. They would take that family and they'd hear them, they'd listen, and they'd honor the family. And we weren't getting where I knew Avery should have been, and we sent her for we're waiting to get the MRI. So, my prayer is that nothing shows up, but at the same time there's something going on. So I think that that's a miracle that the family had an amazing chiropractic experience in that they were given hope, and they were given somebody to have a shoulder to cry on and not push them out the door. That's I think a miracle that they don't want to give up on Avery.
Well, that's the power of chiropractic, is it gives people acknowledgement.
Yeah. Yeah. We honor them as a human being, a fellow human being.
Yeah.
And then we have multiple of these, and these failure to thrive stories, multiple babies coming in that have been given the diagnosis of failure to thrive. And a lot of people don't realize what that diagnosis means. I have had a couple of young interns come in, and they see the miracle, and they kind of just, oh, well, yeah, baby responded. They don't realize that failure to thrive means they've been given a diagnosis that this baby isn't going to make it. And you take this baby home and you just spend whatever time and do whatever it is that you do. And one adjustment on multiple diagnoses of failure to thrive, this baby thrives over and over and over, without question, without waver, without doubt. And so the latest one was a baby, a number 10 baby in the family, the 10th child in the family, as if this mother does not know what to do, right? And the whole family's affected. This baby screams all night. Everybody's suffering. Nobody's sleeping. And this one adjustment, this little one, I think he was 9 months old, somewhere around there, and he weighed like birth weight, less than 9 pounds.
Wow.
Now he's just huge. Now they live an hour from us, so we found them a chiropractor closer to him. I haven't seen him, but amazing, just amazing.
And that's it, is chiropractic knows no timeline. It knows no distance. People show up for it when they're supposed to.
Right.
They show up the way that they're supposed to, and chiropractic is always going to give, love, and serve. And that's been one of the best parts about our interview today, Dr. Selina, is we got a chance to share a lot of big ideas with people, and hopefully we connect the future of chiropractic with a better message. And I think that we've done a great job of at least starting the conversation today.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it takes us. But is there anything I didn't ask you today that you wanted to share with our audience?
Don't be afraid to do what you know, and practice what you do, and do it well, and be patient with yourself, and don't judge the outcome. Don't be attached to any of the circumstances. Just go through the 33 principles and own them as if they are your lifeblood, and live them and practice them in your own life. Don't try to vomit them on somebody else. Why don't you vomit to yourself and learn it yourself?
Yeah, I actually got an award once from Life for 33 principles, and it was pretty cool.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah, and I think that every chiropractor should, understand philosophy. And that's why I always love to give like the opener with a little bit of philosophy in there, and a little bit of historical language and things that people might not get day to day. So yeah, I think it's really good. And I appreciate the candidness, and I appreciate the conversation. And I think that there's a lot for us to continue to do. But I think that getting chiropractic into more schools is definitely going to create a better future and a better opportunity for more chiropractors. And
how do we do it? I don't know, but
I love the vision of getting mission trips domestic, and because people need care, and there's pockets of humanity that people just need care. There's this group out there that's a Christian group called Convoy of Hope, and they show up anywhere there's a natural disaster, or anywhere that tornadoes come through, or floods come through, or fires come through. And I think that if we did something similar like that for chiropractic, people would understand the access and the professionals behind the profession too. So let's preview at the closing the event here coming up. I know that we're going to be at the ICA annual convention out in Las Vegas. Do you want to talk a little bit about that before we close out?
Yeah, it's our annual meeting and convention, April 20th to 23rd at the Park MGM in Vegas. And the lineup of speakers, it's a lot of research, but I don't want you to feel overwhelmed that it's just research. I think that it's a great combination, plus the networking of just, I keep saying what has come to mind is BJ's phrase, head, heart, and hands. So you can't use your hands unless there's research behind it that explains why we use our hands and why we do what we do. And so it is our, as I said, our annual meeting. So all of our representative assemblymen come in, our board is there. And it's just, I think for me, it's a really different type of program. It's a very different type of program than I'm in the past. Like I'm a DE kid, run around barefoot and throw toilet paper out the window of a Biltmore Hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. That was the thing for kids to do. Or at DE or at New Beginnings, that's another place that I call home. So this is definitely more in the head, but bringing in the heart and hands too.
Well, I'm really excited to be out there with everybody. If you guys are coming to the ICA event, sign up now. I think that it's a great thing to be a part of. One of the times when the computer glitched out, I said, hey, one of the trends I've seen is when I interview people in chiropractic recently, they say support your state, support an organization, and I always suggest support the ICA. And they say to give back to schools too. So yeah. I think that's a good trend for people to follow and support people in business that support chiropractic too. I think that's another thing too, is promote from within, do business with good people in the chiropractic profession. But Dr. Selina, I really appreciate you being on for episode 507. Have a great night out there in Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And
I'll see you in a couple weeks then.
You will. And I'll just close out telling everybody that you're just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys on the next episode. And Dr. Selina, looking forward to seeing you very, very soon.
Thanks.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.